Chapter 165 Fourth Soul Ring. At this point, Hua Yuao relied on his explosive strength. Once the three golden wolves began to attack him, it would be very difficult for him to escape. When he unleashed his strongest strike, his imitation also exhibited a great effect. The mighty Ice Empress aura spread out, and the blood-red soul ring started to shine extremely brightly. The three golden wolves that were about to leap towards him stopped in their tracks. Among the surrounding pack of golden wolves, those that had less than 1,000 years of cultivation all collapsed to the ground. Hua Yuao exploited this opportunity, and his third soul skill, enfeeblement, turned into a patch of white light that scattered. The Silver Moon Wolf King, the three golden wolves and the rest of the golden wolves were all struck by this white light. The Juga divine crossbows fired at this moment. Hua Yuao's class 5 soul thruster behind his back was also activated with full force, propelling his body forward like a shooting star. Although his plan had deviated, he didn't retreat. He still needed to complete it. Even if he couldn't kill the Silver Moon Wolf King, he had to burst forward. Otherwise, he wouldn't have any chance left. Spiritual interference was unleashed following the enfeeblement. The three golden wolves weren't affected that much, but the rest of the golden wolves weren't so fortunate. That was also key to ensuring Hua Yuao's escape. The Silver Moon Wolf King let out a vicious howl. Although it had already lost both its eyes, it still relied on its immense spiritual power to predict Hua Yuao's actions. Its howl also jolted the three golden wolves, who were still reeling in shock from Hua Yuao's imitation. The three huge wolves blocked Hua Yuao and prevented him from proceeding forward. The Juga divine crossbows arrows could pierce through thousand-year golden wolves' bodies, but they only created sparks when they struck the three golden wolves. The three golden wolves shut their eyes and lifted their claws. They kept on clawing towards the arrows. Although they felt pain, they weren't really harmed. Hua Yuao collided with the three golden wolves in front of him at this moment. His speed was frightening under the effect of the class 5 soul tool. Hua Yuao hugged his knees to his chest and used his hands to hug his legs as he lowered his head. This was to reduce the surface area of his collision. The Ice Empress armor covered his entire body. He was currently like an enormous ice ball. The three golden wolves reacted quickly. The burliest golden wolf in the center stood up straight, and its two claws pierced towards Hua Yuao as it let out an ear-piercing roar. The golden wolf on the left retreated rapidly and protected the Silver Moon Wolf King. The golden wolf on the right teamed up with the central golden wolf to attack Hua Yuao. Indeed, the higher the cultivation of a soul beast, the more intelligent it was. The three golden wolves complemented each other very well and worked together efficiently. Although the enfeeblement had taken effect on them, their offensive strength didn't dip by a lot. After all, Hua Yuao was still some way off from their abilities. That was why Hua Yuao's soul skill didn't affect them too much. Under normal circumstances, Hua Yuao's best choice was to use his spiritual detection to try and avoid the golden wolves' attacks. However, this would make it impossible for him to burst past them. Hua Yuao looked very calm now. It was as if it wasn't his body that was about to be struck. There was no resistance or attack. He chose to take the strikes of the two golden wolves forcefully. A scarlet golden radiance suddenly shone from Hua Yuao's body. In the pitch dark night, another sun seemed to rise from the mountaintop. The strikes of the two golden wolves landed on the scarlet golden light barrier that appeared, and a miraculous thing occurred. The scarlet golden light barrier's surface seemed to ripple, and the strikes of the golden wolves slid off. They couldn't penetrate it. Hua Yuao groaned, and his class 5 soul thruster propelled him forward at maximum speed. He collided with the golden wolves and pushed them aside. The Ice Empress pincer restrained the claws of the golden wolf that was originally in front of Hua Yuao. However, he was still struck in the back by the golden wolf that was originally at his left side. The scarlet golden barrier weakened a little, but Hua Yuao managed to lift his legs, and two balls of light were shot out from the balls of his feet. It was yet another soul thruster. Although it was only a class 3 soul thruster, it managed to propel him forward extremely rapidly. He burst past the two golden wolves instantly. An intense azure light now shone from Hua Yuao's body. A weird golden light also flashed across his eye of destiny before landing on the Silver Moon Wolf King, which was spitting out a huge silver ball of light. The intense azure light spread and carried a chill with a desolate aura that filled the entire top of the mountain. Everything within a 10-meter radius was engulfed by this azure light. It was the domain of perpetual ice. The silver ball of light spat out by the Silver Moon Wolf King had already been converted into a huge fireball. However, it was instantly extinguished by the azure green domain of perpetual ice. Not even a single spark was left. Hua Yuao was in a delicate position now. Behind him were the two golden wolves that had tried to block him earlier. To his front left was the golden wolf that was protecting the Silver Moon Wolf King, whereas the Silver Moon Wolf King itself was less than 5 meters from him. And bursting forward, the domain of perpetual ice was indeed very powerful. The four wolves instantly slowed down tremendously as their bodies were coated with a layer of frost. However, they were all too powerful for Hua Yuao. Hua Yuao's current cultivation was insufficient to freeze them completely. Even so, Hua Yuao still earned himself a great opportunity by slowing them down. The golden wolf that was protecting the Silver Moon Wolf King became much slower. Hua Yuao's body twisted in the air, and he avoided its claws. He came before the Silver Moon Wolf King. At this point, the three golden wolves were behind him, while the Silver Moon Wolf King was in front of him. He was surrounded by the four wolves now. A cold look appeared in Hua Yuao's eyes. He didn't even bother with the three golden wolves behind him. The domain of perpetual ice would at least ensure that they couldn't attack within the next 3 seconds. What he had to do now was deal with the Silver Moon Wolf King before the three golden wolves recovered. He unleashed everything that he was holding in earlier. The Silver Moon Wolf King was also affected by the domain of perpetual ice, and its movement was slowed. However, its resistance was superior to the three golden wolves, so it was recovering faster. However, Hua Yuao wouldn't grant it the opportunity to fully recover. An azure blue light flashed in his left hand before disappearing. A compressed boom sounded right in front of the Silver Moon Wolf King's face. The frozen bloodstains on its fur that were left by the domain of perpetual ice exploded. When the Silver Moon Wolf King was struck by the Destiny Soul Gaze, its eyeballs had been blown apart as it neutralized the impact of spiritual shock, and its crushed eyeballs had left a pile of fluid. Although its body wasn't frozen by the domain of perpetual ice, it couldn't prevent these fluids from flowing out. And now, Hua Yuao used the ice explosion technique to blow that frozen fluid apart. The explosive force of this direct explosion was naturally incomparable to the explosive force when the ice explosion technique was injected into a corpse. However, a portion of the ice exploded inside the Silver Moon Wolf King's eye sockets. In addition, it happened very suddenly. The Silver Moon Wolf King's body suddenly rose up as it screamed in pain. The intense pain caused it to lose its cool and judgment. The dark golden terraclaws turned into 4-meter-long blades of light that stabbed into the Silver Moon Wolf King's body. This 10,000-year Silver Moon Wolf King was very powerful. It seemed to possess something like an automatic defensive soul tool when the dark golden terraclaws stabbed into its body. The 7-colored radiance that had once appeared from it flashed again. It was different from the time it tried to resist Hua Yuao's spiritual power. This time, Hua Yuao only felt that his dark golden terraclaws had stopped 7 times. After 7 roars were heard, he finally managed to strike the Silver Moon Wolf King. As these 7 roars were released, 7 different forms, water ripples, flames, tough ramparts, a rapid whirlwind, a light shield, a dark barrier, and a lightning web, were adopted. These 7 forms represented the 7 elements, and greatly diminished the effect of the dark golden terraclaws. Hua Yuao didn't manage to kill the Silver Moon Wolf King even though he had stabbed his claws into the vital area between its chest and belly. The 3 golden wolves behind Hua Yuao had recovered by now, and they burst towards him. Hua Yuao took in a deep breath and his entire body seemed to swell. His gaze remained calm. It was as if he had predicted this. His left hand drummed against his chest, and a blinding golden light started to spread from his body. It turned into a golden barrier 2 meters in diameter. The 3 golden wolves couldn't penetrate this golden barrier with their attacks. Hua Yuao's entire spine had already turned a blinding azure green. This was the Ice Jade Empress Scorpion's skeleton's strongest attack, the Ice Empress Wrath. From rank 30 to rank 40, the greatest transformation that had occurred was that he no longer had to rely on the Hadong power to support his strongest few soul skills. Although Hua Yuao was now spent, and his soul power was almost completely depleted, he still appeared very ferocious as the Ice Empress Wrath was unleashed. The 400. 1,000-year soul ring caused Huo Yuao's strongest strike to make a clean sweep through the Silver Moon Wolf King. His destiny soul gaze had destroyed the Silver Moon Wolf King's eyes, and his dark golden terror claws had torn its 7 elements defense apart. The Ice Empress Wrath now dealt the fatal blow. This was the power of Huo Yuao, the eyes of Asura. Huo Yuao jumped forward, and his right hand's dark golden terror claws stabbed into the frozen Silver Moon Wolf King's neck. He flung the Silver Moon Wolf King into the air forcefully after that, then leapt forward and used the class 5 soul thruster behind his back to increase his speed. He chased after the frozen Silver Moon Wolf King and brought it to an abyss at the bottom of a cliff. The golden wolves that lay in ambush at the sides of the cliff were still affected by Huo Yuao's enfeeblement, and could only watch helplessly as that ball of golden light shot away. Even at this point, the 3 golden wolves still couldn't penetrate the golden light barrier. A pair of wings from a flying type soul tool flapped open, and Huo Yuao's body stopped falling, before rapidly flying into the distance. No matter how strong metal type soul beasts were in the Jingyang mountain range, they couldn't change the fact that they couldn't fly. They watched helplessly as Huo Yuao turned into a ball of golden light and disappeared into the horizon. The layer of golden light around him also diminished, and a dim mist surged out from him. The vapor engulfed his entire body, and his aura disappeared as it did so. The 3 golden wolves roared furiously, and burst out running towards the foot of the mountain. However, it was impossible for them to chase Huo Yuao. After a few minutes, the trail of mist had already disappeared into the clouds between the mountains. Huo Yuao finally let out a long breath of relief after he finished nourishing his soul power with a class 6 milk bottle. Everything had seemed to be under his control. However, he had spent more than 10 seconds gliding through the air after activating his flying soul tool. He had done that so he could use all his remaining soul power to support his imitation as a means of concealing himself. Even though he had now restored almost half of his soul power using the milk bottle, he still felt fatigued. While this battle was a little risky for Huo Yuao, it was still within his projections. It was only the Silver Moon Wolf King's abilities that were beyond his expectations. However, he used his immense explosive strength to counteract the slight deviation in his plan. It was very difficult to find a suitable spiritual type soul beast for himself. Since he had found one, he couldn't let it go. He had asked Juzi and KK to leave first so that he could unleash his full abilities. 2 facts had let him keep his life. The first was his location. Since he was high on a mountain, it gave him an opportunity to fly into the air to shake off his enemies. If he had stayed the ground, he would have needed to gain some altitude after using a flight soul tool. With the golden wolves' leaping abilities, they would have been able to attack him 3 times each. That was equivalent to 9 strikes, since there were 3 golden wolves. However, he had been on top of the mountain. When he jumped from the top of the mountain, the golden wolves lost their ability to pursue him. Time was very precious at that point. After Huo Yuao used all his strength to kill the Silver Moon Wolf King, every second was very critical. The other reason was that he had another soul tool on his chest, which was there before he left Shrek Academy. This soul tool was related to Jing Hingshen's trip to Shrek Academy. Jing Hingshen had been forced to leave behind a soul tool when threatened by Elder Mu. Eventually, he left a class 9 soul tool behind, Hingshen's Blessing. Hingshen's Blessing could do 2 things. First, it had a defensive capability that could be automatically initiated. The scarlet golden light barrier that Huo Yuao had used to defend against the golden wolves' attacks earlier was a sign that Hingshen's yearning had been initiated. The other thing it could do was the bright golden light barrier that Huo Yuao had activated at the end, an invincible barrier that lasted 15 seconds. This invincible barrier could withstand an offensive force 3 times Huo Yuao's strength. While the 3 golden wolves were very strong, they went 3 times stronger than Huo Yuao. This allowed him to escape after he killed the Silver Moon Wolf King. Without this class 9 soul tool, Huo Yuao would have been torn apart by the 4 wolves. The best result he could have achieved was to kill one of them. Huo Yuao had kept his cool and stayed behind because he had the Hingshen's Blessing. He eventually achieved his goal, too. He wasn't afraid of being discovered by soul beasts as he flew through the sky with his imitation skill in place. In addition, it was very late at night. If it were daytime, he would have been more likely to show some flaws. Although the battle had ended very quickly, Huo Yuao was spent. Not only was his soul power greatly depleted, but his own spiritual power and energy were also mostly expended. Huo Yuao was certain that he wouldn't have been calm enough to win this fight without the tough training that he had gone through in the Ultimate Soldier plan. He was even sweating profusely at this moment. The conditions in the Jingyang mountain range couldn't be judged based on his experience in the Great Stardo Forest. He needed to be more cautious in the future. Of course, he wasn't being too bold, either. He could have escaped, even though he might not have killed the Silver Moon Wolf King, since he had the 15 seconds of protection from the Hingshen's Blessing's invincible barrier. His life was never in danger. Huo Yuao still treasured his life. Huo Yuao managed to direct his flying type soul tool out of the main branch of the Jingyang mountain range as he nourished his soul power with the milk bottle. However, he was getting more and more exhausted. More importantly, a black soul ring started to surface from the Silver Moon Wolf King's body. The soul ring that surfaced after a soul beast perished only remained for a certain period of time. If there was too much of a delay, the soul ring would dissipate on its own. Huo Yuao had expended a lot of effort to get this soul ring, so he couldn't waste it. He controlled the flying type soul tool and slowly descended towards the branch trail beneath him. He needed to find a place to absorb his 4th soul ring. At the same time, he needed to regain some of his energy. The tremendous depletion of his second mental scene meant he had lost his ability to use the Eye of Destiny temporarily. He needed at least a day to fully recover. Huo Yuao was still in a good mood after all that had happened. He had obtained his 4th soul ring, which meant that his abilities could be enhanced further. He had been unable to improve recently because of the bottleneck in his cultivation. After absorbing this soul ring, he could reach rank 41, and rank 42 was not out of the question. He could become an official soul ancestor. Huo Yuao found a secluded area along the branch trail of the mountain range and used his spiritual detection to scan his surroundings. After he confirmed that there was nothing that could threaten him within a 2-kilometer radius, he quietly sat down on a large mountain rock. As a golden light flashed, he first flung out a golden wolf's corpse. This golden wolf was killed by him previously. It had had a cultivation of around 1,000 years. Huo Yuao pressed his right hand against the golden wolf's corpse and muttered something under his breath. He was speaking in a weird language, but his body started to shine with weird streaks of light. The light then changed, starting from his eyes. Huo Yuao's spirit eyes turned grey and were filled with a sense of death. The greyish light circulated, and his right hand was slowly coated in a layer of blurry, greyish light. The greyish color was slowly injected into the head of the golden wolf's corpse, and a weird scene appeared. The dead golden wolf started to tremble slightly. Its fur gradually stood on end, and its huge body slowly crawled to its feet. However, its brownish yellow eyes had turned grey, just like Huo Yuao's. It was a terrifying scene to watch. Huo Yuao lifted his right hand, and his index finger touched the golden wolf's forehead lightly. The golden wolf's body trembled a little, and the greyish color in its eyes turned into jumping, greyish flames. Protect me and you won't come to harm. Huo Yuao's voice was deep and captivating. The golden wolf nodded its head in a very human manner after hearing his words. After that, it jumped away and disappeared into the forest. Huo Yuao breathed out and revealed a delighted look. This was his real secret. Even in Shrek Academy, no one knew about it. It was necromancy that came from the divine law of necromancy, taught to him by Calamity Necromancer Electrolux. When Huo Yuao's soul power cultivation broke the rank 40 barrier, Electrolux told him that he could start cultivating necromancy. Huo Yuao was a little doubtful about necromancy at the start, but he soon accepted it under Electrolux's guidance. Electrolux told Huo Yuao that he had a story that belonged to him. However, this story was very long, and he was unwilling to tell it to Huo Yuao at that point in time. His memory had only been partially restored, and he needed it to be complete before he could be clearer about things. However, he was certain about one thing. Necromancy would never affect Huo Yuao's will. Any skill could be used for good or bad purposes. Necromancy was very powerful and magical, and was completely different from the soul rings, soul power, soul skills, and soul bones in this world. It was an independent yet immense force. However, it could be practiced through a combination of soul power and incantations. This was a profound skill that had been derived by Electrolux after being fused with Huo Yuao's body for many years. Huo Yuao decided to accept Electrolux's teachings after a period of consideration. As he entered the world of necromancy, he slowly felt the charm of it. True necromancy was far superior to the evil soul skills that the envoy of the death god had used. Necromancy involved research on souls, especially those after death. Electrolux told Huo Yuao that the first necromancer in his original world learned the art for the sake of reviving his dead wife. Although he wasn't able to revive his wife, her soul was resurrected, and he managed to live with his wife's soul until he himself perished. Huo Yuao could only only grasped very little, as his cultivation was too low. However, he had managed to develop his foundation in necromancy over the past 2 years. Right now, he had used necromancy to make the Golden Wolf his bodyguard temporarily. Although it wouldn't be for long, it would be long enough for him to absorb his 4th soul ring. Huro Yuao revealed a determined look as he placed the Silver Moon Wolf King's corpse on the ground. He was certain that even an 8-ring soul Douluo couldn't deal with the Silver Moon Wolf King easily under normal conditions. The Silver Moon Wolf King's fighting strength was immense, and its spiritual power was also greater than that of most ordinary soul beasts. More frighteningly, it could enslave other wolf-type soul beasts. If Huro Yuao hadn't unleashed his explosive killing power at the very start, along with his powerful soul skills, he wouldn't have stood a chance against the Silver Moon Wolf King. Huro Yuao was very certain that the Ice Empress armor was unable to resist the Golden Wolf's attacks, and that he truly needed Hin Chen's blessing to protect himself. He wasn't capable of dealing with 3 Golden Wolves at his current cultivation level, and the Silver Moon Wolf King was even stronger than them. It had a 7 elements defense that made it very resolute. If he hadn't used the Destiny Soul Gaze at the start to critically injure the Silver Moon Wolf King and affect its spiritual powers, the battle wouldn't have ended so easily. However, all that was in the past. Huro Yuao had succeeded, and the most important thing that he had to do now was absorb his 4th soul ring. His gentle soul power rose, and the mysterious heaven technique circulated normally. Huro Yuao's spiritual power gradually guided the black soul ring hovering over the Silver Moon Wolf King's corpse towards him. It was a 10,000-year soul ring, but this soul ring wasn't just an ordinary black. 7 types of light subtly flashed within it, and Huro Yuao could clearly sense the undulations of the 7 elements. Back when he was absorbing his 3rd soul ring from the purple spirit wolf, Huro Yuao had been quite embarrassed, although he wasn't afraid at all. That was because Elder Mu had been guarding out in front of the sea god's pavilion for him. Right now, he was absorbing a 10,000-year soul ring again. However, he was doing it by a trail out in the Jingyang Mountain range. As the black soul ring entered his body, there were only 2 words to describe Huro Yuao's feelings: blown away. When the black soul ring fused with his body, Huro Yuao felt as if his entire body was about to blow apart. His entire person shook tremendously, and a layer of 7-colored light shone from his body to a diameter of 3 meters before dimming. Huro Yuao's face also turned pale. He never expected the Silver Moon Wolf King's aura to be so domineering. This might did not come from the immense spiritual power at the core of the soul ring, but from the strength of the elements within it: water, fire, earth, wind, light, darkness, and thunder, which were only achieved after 10,000 years of cultivation. The 7 elements contained their own abilities, but they were all unleashed in Huro Yuao's body in that instant. Huro Yuao's will was already very strong. However, he felt as if his entire body was about to explode when the frightening force blew apart. It wasn't a comfortable feeling at all. However, he could only endure. While enduring it was pure torment to Huro Yuao, he could reap great benefits if he managed to successfully pass this test. His soul power circulated fully, and started to accept the soul ring. At the same time, 2 waves of force were released inside Huro Yuao's body. The Silver Moon Wolf King was infringing on the territory of the Ice Empress. The Ice Empress was going to retaliate. Huro Yuao's body turned azure green at this instant, a color that originated from the Ice Jade Empress Scorpion's skeleton. An intense azure light spread to every corner of his body. A chilly aura instantly repressed the manic explosive force. The Ice Jade Empress Scorpion's aura was also released at this moment, and repressed the Silver Moon Wolf King's soul ring. While the Silver Moon Wolf King was very powerful, how could it compare to a 400,000-year soul beast? Thousand-year soul beast that was one of the 10 great savage beasts and 3 heavenly kings of the extreme north. The Ice Empress, the all-engulfing, frightening will and desolate aura of the Ice Empress instantly repressed the manic struggle. However, the Silver Moon Wolf King was an arrogant creature. It wouldn't submit even under such circumstances. Since it couldn't match up in terms of soul power, it activated its dominant spiritual power. However, once it did so, it collided with the spiritual barrier. The Sky Dream Ice Worm was not as hot-tempered as the Ice Empress, but the Silver Moon Wolf King had crossed its bottom line. Huro Yuao had expended a lot of effort to kill this soul beast. He was fatigued now and couldn't be counted on to absorb the soul ring. After remaining silent for so long, the Sky Dream Ice Worm decided that it had to do something. And so the Silver Moon Wolf King's spiritual power didn't work. In terms of species, the Ice Worms couldn't compare to the Silver Wolves. They weren't even on the same level. However, the Silver Moon Wolf King wasn't anywhere near as old as the Sky Dream Ice Worm. Even in the Great Stardew Forest, Sky Dream Ice Worms were treated as treasures by the other 100,000-year soul beasts. No soul beasts in the world could compare to Sky Dream Ice Worms in terms of spiritual power. The only weakness of the Sky Dream Ice Worms was that they didn't have any offensive abilities. However, they were immensely strong in terms of defense. The fusion process became much easier with the help of the Ice Empress and Sky Dream Ice Worm. The Black 4th Soul Ring was slowly imprinted onto Huro Yuao's soul and body after a brief period of torment. Not only this, but the Sky Dream Ice Worm and Ice Empress also took this opportunity to further fuse their powers into Huro Yuao's body. The origin power released by the Ice Empress skeleton slowly combined with Huro Yuao's body. Not only did this enhance his soul power, it also made his body tougher. The Sky Dream Ice Worm used his own spiritual power to restore Huro Yuao's spiritual sea and second mental sea. At the same time, it expanded the size of Huro Yuao's spiritual sea. The leap from a soul elder to a soul ancestor was very important for every soul master. This signified that they had progressed from the beginner stage to the intermediate stage. Even though such an appraisal couldn't be used on someone as talented as Huro Yuao, his abilities did indeed improve by another level. Perhaps it was because the Silver Moon Wolf King's soul ring was strong enough, or the Ice Empress and Sky Dream's powers were too great. But after fusing with his 4th soul ring, Huro Yuao's soul power crossed rank 41 and reached rank 42. This was a delightful surprise for Huro Yuao, whose cultivation speed had slowed down greatly. It was already daybreak when he opened his eyes. The trail was foggy, and he was unable to see the sunrise, so he couldn't cultivate his purple demon eyes today. Huro Yuao jumped up and stretched. An immense force surged through his entire body, which was a very refreshing feeling. His body also became much more flexible. The increase in his soul power caused his overall abilities to jump by 20%. While he still couldn't use the Ice Empress Wrath twice with his current abilities, he could at least unleash the domain of perpetual ice another time. I wonder how much time has passed. With his previous experience of how long it took him to absorb soul rings, Huro Yuao was uncertain whether it was the 2nd, 3rd, or even the 4th morning. His mind wavered, and a golden light shone from his eyes. 1 white, 1 purple, and 2 black soul rings rose from his feet. His spiritual detection was unleashed, and Huro Yuao was delighted to feel that it had been enhanced once again. He was now able to increase his detection to a 600-meter radius. If he changed his detection to make it unidirectional, he could double the distance. The Silver Moon Wolf King's corpse was as stiff as ever. The ice imbuing it couldn't be melted so easily. Huro Yuao put the corpse away in his storage-type soul tool, and his 4 soul rings also disappeared. His trip to the Jingyang Mountain range wasn't a waste after all. He wondered what his 4th soul ring's ability was. As he thought about it, the 4 soul rings that had disappeared earlier surfaced once again. The black 4th soul ring lit up brightly, and a soul skill activated. Huro Yuao was stunned after it was displayed. He wasn't sure whether he should be happy or worried. He naturally expected the 7-colored, 7 elements defense of the Silver Moon Wolf King. It was an impressive defensive skill. However, that was not what he had obtained. It wasn't a defensive type soul skill. Rather, it was. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.